Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to please stand as we get ready to be led in prayer by Councilman Dale, and please remain standing for the pledge after. I'd like to thank everyone for coming in tonight to our council meeting. We're going to get ready to jump right into it. Our first item on the agenda for tonight is to consider approval of minutes of the July 20, 2021 regular meeting.
After reviewing the minutes, I'll make a motion to accept them as presented.
I will second that motion.
We got a motion by Councilman Dale, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. We'll now close item 1 on the agenda and move on to item 2. Item 2 is a presentation by Hilltop Securities and discussion regarding potential bond refunding and authorize city staff, Hilltop Securities, with our bond attorney, Jeff Goebbels, to proceed.
Good evening, Council. Sorry, Jim Sabonis couldn't be here tonight, and or Andre. Andre was feeling under the weather, and Jeff was feeling like he needed, Jim was feeling like he needed to get out into the weather and enjoy it a little bit. So, they came to me we have Jorge Delgado. He is Jim's assistant. He's back there with us tonight. He's worked with Jim and Andre for many, many years, and he's run over these numbers, and so he's very familiar with them, and he's worked with both Jim and Andre for a long time. So he's going to go over some of this stuff here for y'all shortly in just a second. Jim met with me last week and said that this is the street bond that we did not too long ago. With the market being as low as it is, there is an opportunity for us to refund it. He wants to take the bond and just watch the market over the next couple weeks. And whenever he finds the lowest possible moment when the market is really low, he wants to find a negotiated buyer. He has got a bunch of our banks from around here, like Prosperity and American National and some of our local banks, and go and see if they're willing to meet the market rate on that day and buy the bond. And then if they would, then we would probably see a savings anywhere from $196,000 to $250,000 on this street bond, just because the market is so low right now. And so today, after he gives you the presentation, what he's asking for is permission to proceed forward. Now, we wouldn't be asking for permission to sell the bond today. When he actually received the rate, we would come back to you at a later council and present that rate to you and explain to you what the savings were. And if the market doesn't go down enough to where we could get the savings, then we wouldn't sell it. It would be no harm, no foul. We would just continue paying the same rate that we are now. But it's just an opportunity that's presented itself, and we would try to take advantage of the market if it goes down really low and make the sell.
What is the
Just for the
current rate? I'm
public.
sorry.
Just
What is
for
the current rate? I'm sorry.
If you look in your packet, there is a current slide there. It shows what our,
This is kind of for the public's knowledge here also, just the rate and also the terms of this.
so our current rate is 3.07%, and we were looking at trying to get 1.46% on this bond. And so we have the final maturity at 5/15/2032, and we would be selling, the actual callable amount of this bond is $4,350,000 right now. And so we're looking to at least save a minimum of $145,000 on this. But we want to try to get up to at least $200,000 to $250,000. So we're going to try to really, really watch the market and try to get it, because the market's going up and down. So we just want to catch the market when it's on its down on its lowest, at its lowest point, and then try to sell it on that day.
And that will be, the savings you're talking about there, that will be our saving to the city after Hilltop's cut of.
Yes, sir.
So, Mikhail, what is Hilltop rep going to say? Jorge, what's he going to say? You set it off.
Mayor, council members, good afternoon. Jorge with Hilltop Securities. Pleasure to be here. Again, I work with Jim and Andre and worked with the city in the past and the three for a number of years. So what you have here is a simple plan of finance. As your financial advisor, we monitor the market and advise you, and we work with Ms. Reeve on any potential opportunities to save on debt. And you've got Series 2012 outstanding right now, which is currently prepayable. You've had that since 2012, and right now is when you can actually get to it. We've been monitoring it for a couple months, and we figured rates continue to sustain low, and it's a good time to go ahead and if you want to move forward with the plan, try and see if we can generate some savings here. Now, you're an investment grade rating community. You most recently got your A2 by Moody's. You got your A+ by S&P. Standard & Poor's confirmed. In your other issuance, that's something that's going to drive a lot of competitive bids here. And what we're asking here is giving us the go-ahead to get to work with Ms. Reeve and your legal counsel, which means your bond counsel, Mr. Golbus, to go ahead and put a financial packet, send it out to a number of investors, financial institutions, which is another word for banks, fancy word for banks, as well as your depository, and get them to compete for these refunding loans. Take a look at what they have to offer. Obviously, we would be presenting you with the lowest interest rate on August 17th, your next regular council meeting, and see what that savings does. Now, as Ms. Reeve said, we chose, right now this is the budgeted interest rate. You're not locking in anything right now. And we're looking at $146,000 worth of savings to the city after any financing costs, legal, financial, AG any underwriting fees that banks, the bidders may have. That's already after any type of those costs. But we chose that sweet spot because that's what generates 3% savings to the city on the refinance. As Ms. Reeve said, we're looking to get a little bit higher than that. Rates continue to be low, and we've seen rates closer and below that now. Ms. Reeve said if you get 200,000, that's an even better deal. That's what a 1.26% gets you. Again, we know of a lot of banks that are flush with cash and are looking to put their money somewhere, and something like Mount Pleasant is a good candidate for them, and we want to make them compete and come back to you with the results of that on your next meeting. Now, if the bids are not in our favor, no harm, no foul. We move down the line. We keep watching it through Ms. Reeve, and we might look at it again, but we got to see what they have to offer. If interest rates continue to linger down there, things are happening that make borrowing or refinancing attractive for issuers like Mount Pleasant, and just that's the way we would tackle this. We wouldn't go go and get a rating. We wouldn't go and put an offering document together. This is a private placement, and we're just asking one financial institution to go ahead and give us a bid, and we would sell the bonds to that specific question.
I think you've answered most of them, I believe, there.
Council, we have any further questions?
So I guess you'll just be watching this over the next 2 weeks, because you mentioned at the next meeting, the 17th, we'll be able to vote at that time.
You would be taking formal action next 17th when we come back with rates, and we will ask for rates on the 16th. They don't like to hold the rates too long, so we gotta time it right before your next council meeting. I will ask for 15 by close of business, and we'll be come back to you with fresh proposals on the 17th. And that's when you would be saying, I like this generates savings, I like, and would lock a fixed interest rate.
You mentioned, you and Mikhail mentioned that we're gonna authorize you tonight, you're gonna wait until it gets really low and then lock it in there, or are you actually just gonna ask for it on the 16th, whatever it is?
We're gonna go ahead and ask bidders, they can submit bids throughout, but we're gonna ask the cutoff to be on August 16th. Now, we gotta look at all bids.
Okay, at this time, the council recommends approval. Madam Secretary, we will take a vote on it if we have a motion. My understanding is you're just asking permission to shop the rate, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'll make a, that we proceed with these bonds as presented tonight by Hilltop Security.
I second the motion.
okay, we have a motion by Mr. Tim Dale, second by Mr. Jerry Walker. Madam Secretary, record a vote.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries unanimously. We'll now move on to item 3 on the agenda. Item 3 is to consider approval of appointment to the Main Street Board.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Basically, we had a resignation from the Main Street Advisory Committee. Mr. Brett Price resigned and relocated to the Metroplex. So staff is recommending considering appointing Lisa Tyler to the board.
If you remember, she was one that we considered last time and vetted, and we only had the one appointment, but we thought we might look at her this next year, but then this one came up, so.
Okay, council, we have any questions or anything about this candidate?
I think she'd be a good one.
Okay, well, the floor is open for a motion.
I move for the approval of the appointment of Lisa Tyler at the Main Street Board.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. Jerry Walker, second by Mr. Henry Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
I might add, we always appreciate these volunteers stepping up and filling these positions. Seems like we always have good quality people that step up, and we appreciate them doing that for us.
Most definitely. We'll now go ahead and close item 3 on the agenda and move on to item 4. Item 4 is a presentation and discussion with Kimley-Horn Consultants concerning 2021 Comprehensive Plan update.
Yeah, let me introduce Abra Nasser. You may remember she helped us do our visioning a few months ago, and they have the contract that she is, by the way, a professional trained planner, works with Kimley-Horn, and she's going to help us with our comprehensive plan. Deborah.
I need to hold it down. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council and members of the community and staff. Thanks for having me this evening. Have a little presentation for you tonight, but you may have noticed these on your places when you walked in. There's also a few outside, but we are going to have the website for you here in a minute. It is the launch of this planning effort. It's the community survey. So we have brought plenty for you to hand out to your friends and neighbors or post them in public places that you might frequent. So help us spread the word. Go ahead. So my name's Abra Nusser, and I am Senior Project Manager at Kimley-Horn. With me tonight is Mark Bowers. He's Deputy Project Manager for the effort. We are planning for the Comprehensive Plan and the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. You're going to see many people helping on the project, but also in addition to us too, Maddie Graham is the project production coordinator, so you'll see her around, but many more people also going to participate in the planning process. So our target with these planning efforts is to really establish a vision. So citywide vision over a number of topics, including infrastructure and economic development, but also parks and recreation. So we've got two separate planning efforts going on that are going to end up in two separate booklets. But overall, we're planning Mount Pleasant. We're going to be looking at the character and vitality of the city. So what's existing that we want to preserve, or what do we want to create in areas that might not have as much character as we'd like to see? And then, like I said, economic development. Who do we want to be on the industry side? What kinds of retail do we want to attract? What kind of businesses do we want to attract? And also, what new housing types do we want in the city as we mature? And then a preservation and regulatory foundation. So as these documents are created and once they're adopted, they can end up in new regulations, either from zoning or on the Parks and Recreation side, it can be budgeting priorities and things of that nature. So what we've heard, our strategic plan that we did together, it lasts 2 years, but we went out and made a 25-year goal that covers a number of things. I won't read that verbatim to you, but on the right is that vision framework we came up with that has those three components: what we're deeply passionate about, what we can be the best at, and what can fuel our economic engine. And go ahead. It led to 10 two-year goals. One is to update the comprehensive plan, and another one is to develop a Parks and Recreation master plan. So we are already making headway with that implementation, in addition to a number of other efforts on the staff side and city leadership side. I know that you guys have been working hard to implement this already, but we are just going forward with that. And the roles of the projects, it might not be straightforward how the strategic plan and comprehensive plan work together, but they are side by side in a hierarchy. So the strategic plan really guides the organization as a business. So what kind of priorities do we have over a 2-year time frame, but also the why behind what we're doing? The comprehensive plan relates more to the city, the physical side of the city, and the services of the city with a 15 to 20-year outlook. So although they are similar, they're very different in time frame, and they're also different in how they're used. And then the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is going to take that framework that's established in the comprehensive plan and make it a more fine-grained level of detail. So it's going to go into parks, programming, trails, and events at a closer level of detail than the comprehensive plan will. So the time for planning. There's no better time than now to plan for Mount Pleasant's future, not only from that prioritization and guide standpoint, but also for funding. So what we know is that the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, to get a matching grant, you have to update your Parks and Recreation Master Plan at least every 5 years. So part of this effort will make Mount Pleasant eligible for additional funding from different grant sources and other opportunities. Also, the feedback that we get throughout the planning process can be utilized for any number of things. I know there were lots of plans that we talked about during the strategic planning retreat in addition to these two items, but also it can help inform your policy making over the coming years, because we're going to get a lot of collaboration, and there might be things that come out of this process that weren't even on your radar before, either that are very, very good, that Mount Pleasant needs to preserve, or things that we can work on that maybe need to go into that prioritization framework. And then last but not least, an action plan. So the comprehensive plan and the Parks and Recreation master plan are going to lead to kind of that game plan that is going to have a step-by-step prioritized list of what we need to do next to achieve that vision. So we do have a design thinking approach. It has 5 steps, and these steps are going to be iterative throughout the process. But most importantly in this, I want to emphasize that first step of empathy. So we listen to understand. We don't come in with any preconceived notions of what Mount Pleasant needs and what it should do. We know from a best practices standpoint and a technical standpoint some of the things like on infrastructure that are very technical, but we are going to listen to the community and the stakeholders throughout the process to see really what people are looking to achieve through the plans. Go ahead. So we also have this triple bottom line framework where we want to operate at the intersection of equity, environment, and economics. It's similar to kind of that other Venn diagram, but we wouldn't want to do something that's super economically advantageous if it's going to hurt the people of Mount Pleasant. We wouldn't want to do something that's really good for the environment if it was going to tank our city government and wasn't going to let us run and provide essential services. So we just want to make sure that each of those 3 spheres is getting attention through the strategies that we create during the planning process. So there's going to be 3 main buckets of community engagement methods throughout both of these planning efforts, and we're going to coordinate them so that it's one seamless experience for the public. Bless you. So there's going to be traditional methods, which is going to be like your press releases and signage through the community. We're going to have in-person, so those are your community forums, meetings like this one where we can get any initial direction from you. And then online. You know, it's 2021. We've got to have a great interactive project website, and I'm going to show you that here in a moment. So it's going to start scrolling through if it's doing what it's supposed to. One more click. Wait. Here it goes. Okay. So while I'm talking here, it should scroll you through. This is live. So planmp2040.com is the website, and it has a survey up for people to take. It's going to run them through strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's going to detail what a comprehensive plan and Parks and Recreation master plan is. It'll have events throughout the process that people can follow along with, a project timeline that'll be up to date and current. It'll have a 24/7 comment or question form that they can submit questions or comments at any time. They can subscribe to updates, so we can email them throughout the process. In that document library, we'll have any flyers, press releases, or any other documents as we proceed. So this is really our digital project hub, and it's going to be the central piece of information that people can follow throughout the project. Yeah. No, it's at your own pace. You can scroll. So these are the main buckets of meetings. You can see CP after some of them, that's comprehensive plan. Both after others, which would be both the comprehensive plan and the Parks and Recreation master plan, or PRMP, which is Parks and Recreation master plan. The main thing you need to note on this slide is that we're going to have 3 community forums. We're going to be coming to you 4 times, including tonight. And also the Parks and Recreation Board is going to serve as the steering committee for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And then we're going to have a standalone Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee for the comp plan. So it's going to follow a 3-phase cadence, beginning, middle, end. And everything will coordinate with those 3 phases. So the community forums, again, beginning, middle, end, we'll have a kickoff scheduled for October. And then the middle will be the public design studio, where we have certain topics that have kind of bubbled up that we want to dig into a little bit more. And then the third and final will be the Did We Get It Right? So here's the draft concepts and highlights for each of the plans, and provide any remaining feedback at that time. So these are the chapters of the comp plan. Won't belabor these, but just to say it is comprehensive. That's why it's called a comprehensive plan. So it's going to cover all different facets of the city. So as we get that SWOT result from the community survey, that'll really help guide these different elements. And then this is the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Again, covering those 4 main components: parks, trails, programming, and events. Elected and appointed officials, your role in this process, first is to provide direction at key points in the process. If you see me or if you see Mark in front of you, that's your time to really provide any direction, but you can provide that at any time to us or to Ed or other staff. I know Robert is really excited about the planning efforts, and so is Ricky, so they're available as well as other staff. Attend the community forums. Might sound self-explanatory, but it's really important. If you guys come to the community forums, then chances are you're telling your friends, you're telling your neighbors, but also spread the word. We're really counting on you to spread it to your circles about these events, and especially the opportunities online as well. And then share feedback throughout, and last but not least, champion and support the final plans when they do come before you, because you will have had ownership of them at that time. So this is our CPAC role. I think you might have been provided some background information on this a little bit, but we are going to have an agenda item after this one for you to appoint the CPAC, but it's going to provide direction at 3 key points in the process: beginning, middle, end. And they're going to be sharing feedback, and they're going to be your plan champions. So we recommend 9 to 13 members. I think we might have a couple extra recommended for this one, but that's okay, because sometimes people don't come, sometimes people drop off. We wouldn't be making new appointments if that does happen. We kind of plan on that happening, but they would need to make that time commitment because it's only 3 meetings. So we really hope that they would stay invested throughout the process, but we'll circle back to CPAC on the next item. So Parks and Recreation Board, very similar, exact same thing, except they're going to have 3 key points, well, 2 or 3, but it's the steering committee for the Parks and Recreation Board, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. All right. So tentative timeline, we are launching the community survey. It is launched, it is up on the website. So take that yourselves and also share the word with that. Community Forum 1, tentatively scheduled for October 9th. If you know of any conflicts on that date, now is the time to let us know, because we have started planning for that already. Community Forum 2 would be at the beginning of the year. It's going to be 2022 already. And then we will head to Community Forum 3 in the spring and adoption by summer. And with that, I think we have next steps on the next slide. And we've got the survey up. Please distribute the flyers. And then we've got the P&Z and Parks and Recreation Board on August 10th. And we're going to start existing conditions analysis and assessment. And then we're going to watch the community survey responses start rolling in and begin our stakeholder interviews and system planning meetings. With that, be happy to answer any questions.
Where are you planning to host the community forum?
I believe we got the Civic Center reserved for October 9th.
What type of funds from the Parks and Wildlife are we talking about? I mean, kind of on the low end up to the high end. Do you have any idea that we might be available for us to?
I think the matching grant for a city of this size, I would need to confirm, but it would be about $750,000. So the total project would be $1.5 million. And it just depends on how competitive that grant cycle is, but that would be the max for one grant cycle. And the grant cycles are every year. And so I would just need to confirm based on your population what that number is.
That might be good for you to have next time for us too.
I had someone that's being proposed for the CPAC, for the Comprehensive Plan Committee, ask a question. I don't know if it's anyhow. Obviously, city councils, in this case, some of us are up for re-election every other year. It's 2-year terms, and of course, at times, city managers change. We don't have, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but their question is, once we launch this, how easy would it be to be derailed by a future council change or management change? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. We do run into that from time to time. Cities do have election cycles on a regular basis, and it seems like no matter how hard we try, we always get right in the middle of it. But when the community is invested in the plan and engagement is done right, then any potential candidates would also be participating in the engagement. And we really, knock on wood, we really don't see any issues with it, even when it's in the height of election season. But hopefully that wouldn't happen, and hopefully everyone will be invested along the way, and we can count on you guys for your leadership to make that a reality.
I think one of the concerns was that depending on how much money we actually start our projects and then it being derailed, I think that was, what kind of safeguards can we put into place to hopefully keep something like that from happening?
You could actually run for council again.
Okay, I think that was a wonderful presentation, and we thank you for your time. Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and close item 4 on the agenda and move on to item 5. Item 5 is to consider appointment of the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee. Mr. Thatcher.
Yeah, Mayor and City Council, we've been working on this a couple of weeks, and you've looked at names and submitted names. I think everything's the same. We added 2 more names today. Those are 16 and 17. And everybody has agreed to serve, so we present these names to you for approval. Oh, Dr. Tommy Oglesby only has 1 G in it. I think Darlene typed that.
Have the council had a chance to read all the names and approve of all the names that's on the list? Or does anyone have any questions or discussion about the names listed?
Yes, on the list that's inserted in the actual agenda packet, there, number 16, Michael Landers is listed, but I don't see him on the separate sheet we received. So
Okay,
did he
yes.
get removed? Did he get removed?
He was removed because he no longer lives in the county.
This looks like a good committee. It reaches out in the community in all segments, from the school, the hospital, to businesses, from Pilgrim to the chamber to big techs, just residents of the community that are involved, and we really appreciate all of these being a part of this and accepting this responsibility.
Okay, with that said, with the motion, the floor is open for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this appointment of this Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee of these 17 individuals that's been presented tonight.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Tim Deal, second by Mr. Henry Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries unanimously. We'll now close that item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda, go ahead, Tim.
Thank y'all for being here.
Definitely.
Have a safe trip home.
Again, that was a great presentation. We thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead now and move on to item 6 on the agenda, and that's presentation of Public Works Project Status Report by KSA. Mr. Buck?
Hello, council. Glad to be here. It's always a pleasure to be in front of you guys. What you have before you with project report of the projects that we have going right now, and just wanted to bring you up to date on where we're at. So starting off, and I won't read everything that's on here, but just to kind of give you a general overview, the wastewater treatment plant rehabilitation project is ongoing. We've got the preliminary engineering report's about 95% right now. We're wanting to take some visits to look at other wastewater treatment plants just to make sure that the operators are in agreement with what we're recommending and are, have buy-in to the operations of that. The second, and interrupt me if you want to with questions, or I'll take them at the end. But the second project on there is the Pavement Assessment. This is a project that we've been working on for a while. We're hoping to present that project to you at the second council meeting in August, which is the next council meeting. So looking forward to that. Town Lake Spillway breach. We did a breach analysis on that. That gave it to the TCEQ, and that was in preparations of the spillway work that was done out there. I left this on there because the TCEQ has still got the opportunity to respond back, although I think they bought off on our recommendations, but it's just to keep it in mind that they're still out there. Number 4 is the Mount Pleasant Industrial Development Corporation, a road. Sorry.
You may just say that the old bridge is gone out there. It's been totally done, and they're moving on with the project. So I mean, you mentioned all that, but that old bridge that's been out there forever is gone.
Right, and I think there's another item in here that'll talk about that a little bit more, but that project is definitely moving forward. The contractor, as soon as we had the pre-construction conference, they wanted to go out there right then and start, so they really made progress. The Mount Pleasant Industrial Development Corporation has been proposing a road to go around behind the spec building to give basically another access point to that spec building according with some prospects, and so that's a project that is just on hold right now to make sure that we get the prospect before we actually do the work, and that's about a $600,000 project. The swimming pool replacement, left this on there, something that will probably be discussed maybe even part of the comprehensive plan, but we know that the spillway that's out in Delwood, or the swim pool out in Delwood Park is up for some work to be done on that. Traffic impact analysis at Old Tyson Road, that is, so out there, Pilgrims has asked that we look into a signal light on Old Tyson Road and maybe a deceleration lane for another parking lot. So this is a study to help that, and we're waiting right now, I believe, on Pilgrims to agree or disagree with our scope and the way we're proceeding with that. But right now, we're starting out with just a study to make sure we get the traffic analysis right and everything before we go forth to the design part of it.
It's a project that they've requested. We're doing the work, we're working with the state and so forth, but we're doing the work, and they'll reimburse us for the study and for the construction cost of this project.
Okay. The next project that's on the list is the East 4th Street Culvert Replacement. This is a project that we're, it says 95%, we're essentially complete with the design of that project. Looking to actually put that out for bids towards the end of the month, around the 22nd of August. That's to replace a 36-inch culvert with a box culvert to handle a little bit more storm out in that location. Projects that are in bid or waiting to bid, the 24-inch water main to Edwards water tank. This is the 24-inch to go in the middle of town to relieve pressure on the system in there and to actually help push water to the other end of town. That one's on hold till School Street appears to be near completion, and we'll advertise it. It's just kind of sitting waiting right now. I-30 storage tank rehab is the same. It's at the I-30 water treatment plant. Big Tex lift station improvements project. That project has been designed. We're anticipating actually advertising for bids on that. August the 14th is our proposed date right now. We'd take bids the first week in September and start construction about a month after that would be the plans right now. Street lights along Carriage route, that may be something you haven't seen before, or I haven't presented in front of this before, but so Ed may want to talk about this more, but this is to have street lights along the Carriage route so that we can hang wreaths and kind of beautify that route itself. This was kind of along Madison Street and then 2nd and 4th Street. And the plans are actually, we advertised that on Saturday. They're actually out for bid right now, and we anticipate taking bids in 3 weeks. It takes 2 weeks to advertise, and then 1 week we have to wait, and then we take bids right after that. So that's projects in that state.
So, and this is just a part of it. If you remember, we're trying to take the new lights up to 4th Street on Jefferson, from 2nd to 4th Street, then across 4th Street to Madison, and back down to 2nd Street, and then 2nd Street west to Van Buren, and then 3rd Street from Van Buren to Madison, and that would complete the loop.
Right, and we did go through this project in quite quick time, and just I don't think Ed knows, but we did get approval from TxDOT to do our open cut for along the curb, so we're in good shape there.
It's Madison from 4th to 2nd, and then Van Buren to Madison on 3rd, and then from on 2nd it's from Madison to Van Buren. Right, that's what we're doing this year.
Yes.
And the light fixtures will match the existing, or that's the intent, to try to find an existing fixture that's identical to what we have?
Right, and actually just due to the timing, the light fixtures have already been ordered, and they are the same, and they will include electrical outlets at the top to take care of the wreaths and things like that.
You may not have realized, but all the lights in those lamps in Caldwell Park and a few others on different places around the courthouse were lamps that did not have the plugs in. And so in the Caldwell Park, we had a lot of cords running on the ground to get it done. But we've taken care of that. We're having those plugs in put down at the top, and they'll all have plugs in them. So they'll be 100% lit without having to run anything.
Right, and just so you know, the way we've got these right now is the electrical plugs on the top will not work unless the light itself is on. So they're going to be on either timer or photo cell as well.
One other thing is the idea was to eventually to extend those lights off the square, eventually down to Ferguson on both Madison and Jefferson, and then up to at least 4th or 5th, and then across and back down, so that kind of a larger area, not just around the courthouse.
The next project that's on here is something that Keith actually discussed last council meeting. It's the Pavement Rehabilitation project. That project's been awarded to Anchor Contracting. and we're anticipating doing the pre-construction conference on it, I believe, next week, if I remember right. School Street elevated storage tank is under construction, and Mr. Gordon Roberts will be here to give you a presentation on that. He's the president of Corrosion Elimination and representing the contractor out there. So I'll let him visit about that here in just a few minutes. The North Sports Complex, I just couldn't go through a council meeting without talking about it. The archway has actually been put up, as we were talking about earlier. It's under construction, but the rock and everything on it's going along pretty good. The archway lettering should be along on the 23rd of this month. And the automatic gates, we've actually ordered automatic gates for it, and I have been promised they will be done before the end of this month. So we're working on all of those projects as well. And Ricky and them have done a really good job, I think, of bringing that complex together. So it's looking really nice out there. The town.
Question real quick about those automatic gates. Can you just give us a quick high-level overview of how they're configured as far as, like, if the gates happen to be closed and you got participants or, people inside, when they come out, there'll be a sensor in the street that'll open it from the, inside to let them out? And any type, how the remote access is going to work? Are there going to be clickers for staff, or the gates open and close via a timer, or, schedule, etc.?
Well, I think we're still in discussions on some of that decision, because we're concerned about if the gates will open with a sensor on the inside. If somebody gets inside, then they can just open the gate for all their friends all night long. And not that would happen, but that's a concern that we have. So we're looking at clickers right now is our main thing we're looking at, but we understand that somebody's going to go through the park and make sure everybody's out of there. So we haven't got that discussion finalized yet to have the right decision there.
And real quick, Ed or Ricky, will we be posting putting a sign? Are we going to have set hours for the park?
Yes, we will, and there'll be a sign. It'll be posted going in and out. What time it closed, what time the gate closed.
Okay, are there any other questions on? Okay. Town Lake Spillway is the one we talked about. The contractor's on site, and he's doing work. One thing I didn't mention is, due to past experience, I've listed the liquidated damages and the final completion date for these construction projects, just so that you can see that there are those in the contracts.
I was out there this afternoon, last meeting I went out with Mr. Rex Allen is here tonight. He and I rode out there, and they were still working there at 4:30, and they're really making some progress. I mean, they've got it tore out. It's coming right along. If we can get some dry weather, and keep some dry weather, they're sure making a lot of progress.
I agree, although I hardly ever hear anybody wanting dry weather in August. So. The Basin M sewer line project that we've got on the roads this shown there, that project, the contractor is on site and is working on that. His materials are on site, and so that's under construction. And the 12-inch Waterline project along the loop is also under construction, and as far as we know, it's on time, but we'll have some pay estimates to present to those here in just a little bit. Does this seem reasonable for a format for everyone? Is that what you were looking for?
I believe so.
This is perfect, Lenny. I appreciate you taking the time to put these projects together.
No problem. So,
Okay.
thank you, guys.
All right, council, we have no further questions? All right, thank you, Lanny. We appreciate you. Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and close item 6 on the agenda and move on to item 7. Item 7 is consider pay request number 2 for the 12-inch West Loop water line.
Hey, council, it's good to be back here again. This is for the 12-inch water line that we're putting in around the West Loop, and the amount for the contractor this time is $102,000. 62680, if I can read right.
You're satisfied with the work and the quality of work and
I am at this time, yes, sir. They're doing a good job, and they've been moving fairly quickly on it.
And if I'm reading this right, Lanny, it looks like the directional boring has already been 100% completed?
Yes. Are there any other questions?
Well, that's my cue. But yeah, council, you good? All right, okay. Yeah, you can stay put there, sir. Okay, at this time, the floor is open for a motion on this item.
I make a motion that pay request number 2 for the 12-inch west loop water line.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Henry Chappelle, second by Mr. Tim Dale. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries unanimously. We'll now close that item on the agenda and move on to our next item, which is to consider approval of pay request from Dixie Overland Construction for work done at the water treatment plant.
I'm actually going to let Anthony talk on this one. He's the one that set that up. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor and Council. This was the rehab of the #1 water filter and also the caustic tank that was damaged during the storm in February, and they've completed it. It's been up and running. Well, the filter's been running about a month now, and the caustic tank about 2 weeks. So it's all good to go.
What type of warranty do we have on this?
1 year. It's only the one payment that they waited till the end. It's $120,310, I believe.
So you're satisfied with all of it?
Yes, sir. They did a good job.
Okay, we're gonna hold you to it.
Well, they got a hold of theirs too.
All righty. Yeah, okay. That's it. Okay, the floor is open for a motion on this item. Thank you, Anthony. We appreciate you.
I'll make a motion, we approve this request from Dixie Overland Construction at the water treatment plant that's been presented here for the $120,310, I believe it is, the final payment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Tim Dale, second by Ms. Sherry Spruill. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll now close that item. We'll move on to item 9 on the agenda. Item 9 is a report from Corrosion Eliminators regarding School Street elevated storage tank.
Council, thank you again. Tonight we have Gordon Roberts with Corrosion Eliminators, who's the president of the company, here with us to talk about the progress and things that he's doing to help the project move along. So with that, I'll introduce Gordon to you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, I sure appreciate you guys allowing me to come in this evening. As Lanny mentioned, KSA asked that I'd come in and, from a general contractor's point of view, give you an update on what we've done to try to accelerate the progress of that project. That we've had some ongoing things that kind of slowed the project down. Weather, we've all seen some things, but I'm not going to get into all those issues. But I want to talk about where we are today, or actually back up 3 or 4 weeks ago, when I took ownership of the project myself as owner of the company, and told KSA that I would be the lead person on the project to make sure it moves forward in a timely manner. We actually met at the job site about 3 or 4 weeks ago with KSA, city, Andrew at the city. I think Anthony, the distinguished gentleman back there, may have been there. A lot of folks were there. My memory's not as good as it used to be, but the purpose of the meeting was to determine kind of where we're at, where we want to go, and how we're going to get there, and set some priorities of what the priorities were. And what we walked away with was 2 main priorities were water in the tank and getting antennas back in place. And so what could we do to make that happen? And what would we focus on to make that happen? And what we walked away with was we can focus on the bowl, completion of the bowl and the riser, because we can always do the legs later. But if we complete the bowl and the riser, we can get water in the tank and get the antennas back on. And so that's what we walked away with. And so we also decided, I told them I'd get back with more resources I thought was going to take to do that, and do that by the end of August, first week of September. Because I know there's another big project backing up on this one, kind of waiting on us to get the project finished. So what I went and done is also hired, in addition to our supervisor and our crew, I went and hired a dedicated project manager for this job, which we haven't never done before. It's a huge expense, but I wanted to have somebody dedicated to this job who's setting the work plan, setting a progress schedule on site daily, instead of from a distance, somebody seeing the results on a daily basis. So we hired a project manager. We've updated the crew to have probably the most experienced elevated tanker. That was one of the things that's difficult, is finding elevated tank people who had background elevated tanks that wanted to come to East Texas and work a 194-foot tank. So we've got that crew updated. We've actually full staff. The last 2 weeks we've been full staff. And one of the other things I felt we could do as progress is parallel work. We got our welders on site, and we got our blast and paint crew on site. And so we got the welders in the interior of the tank, which is one of the big hurdles we were having was the rafters, because the rafters weren't an original part of the scope of work. We found out after blasting the rafters needed to either be replaced or worked on. So the decision made to do a change order. We would replace the rafters. It took a little while to decide on the steel we was going to use for the rafters, but so it's been a little bit of a hurdle. We're actually going to finish the rafters by Thursday, having them removed and replaced. So that's going to eliminate a big hurdle we was having, because that's going to free up the interior of the tank for us to get back into the tank on the blast and paint side and finish coating that interior out. We've already got it blasted and primed, but we're waiting on the rafters and welders to get out with the rafters so we can get back in there. So when we do that on Thursday, that's going to free us up as well to parallel work on the interior of the tank. And we're also going to have a crew on the exterior of the tank working the catwalk. And we're having a containment rigging systems actually fabricated this week. Will be ready Monday. That we'll be ready to put our containment system up so we can work on the exterior and interior of the tank at the same time. So our goal is still end of August, first week of September, to have you be able to get water and your antennas back in play. It depends on severity of one or the other. I know the antennas are pretty important, depending on who needs those up there. But there's something that you can speed the process up on the antennas if you needed to. We can actually blast and prime the exterior of the tank, pull the containment down, and they could come and put the antennas before we actually put the final coatings on, because the final coatings, we roll brush the final coatings, we don't spray them. So that would give you another 10 days, maybe in advance, to get the antennas up early, if that was important. But I prefer to get the job completed, to be honest with you, then do that. Because what happened with the antennas at the beginning of the project was we was having to get the antennas down. That was about 6 weeks we was waiting on to get the antennas removed or taken down, because we weren't allowed to work on the job because there was not enough room with all the cranes and stuff and everything antenna folks. So there was 4 to 6 weeks we were just waiting on antennas to get removed. So if we do that again, we're going to be pulled off the job site, waiting on antennas to be put back in place. So that's just a concern, and that I'm open to whatever you guys would like to do as far as your priorities are set. But if we just stay the course, I still think the end of August, first part of September, we'll be in a position that you guys can accomplish those two priorities. The only thing that's kind of would give me a pause is our contractor for the riser, Pittsburgh Tank, is in a project in San Antonio that's supposed to be finished with by now, and they're supposed to start Monday on the tank. They're not through with that project. They've had issues like everybody else, personnel, headcount, finding people, COVID-19, you name it. But that may cause a week delay there, if that. But they're working on it right now, trying to still get here on Monday. So if they do, we should be in good shape. But when it comes to contractors, I'm at their mercy of getting here and getting that done. But we've also got Plan B in place and C. I've got 2 other contractors looking at it just in case something there doesn't materialize like it should in a timely fashion. We've already got 2 other companies looking at the project, see if they could come in and do this in an expedited time frame we're looking for. So, but basically, so what we're gonna do is, we're gonna focus on the bow, we're gonna focus on the riser, we're gonna work parallel interior, exterior, and then when they come out from doing the rafters, that's gonna free up for us to start on the riser as well. So we can work on the riser and the bow at the same time. And so that's gonna accelerate the process, because we're gonna not even focus on the leg of the project, because that can be, like I say, that can be done after water's in the tank. So that's kind of a 30,000 foot look of it, but I personally taken the project. I stayed on the project. That's why I wanted to come out here, is to send a project manager out here. I want to come out here in person, let you guys know that I'm engaged on a daily basis. Actually, I come out at least once or twice a week from our corporate office and see the job site and make sure we're progressing as well. But the last 3 weeks, we've accomplished more in the last 3 weeks, probably in the last 2 months. So we're on the right track, and we made the changes necessary to get the end result we're looking for.
Yes, sir. I got a couple questions in regards to antennas. So I noticed on the catwalk, the railing, I see some panel antennas and some other apparatuses. To include on the top of the bow, I see some UHF and VHS antennas that are still physically mounted. Can you just kind of give us a high-level overview of how you plan to either take those off and move them, or work around those to prevent disrupting services?
All these smaller antennas, we can work around. We've looked at that. We can, through road brush or somehow, or paint. We also have a small, you can tone down the air, get a smaller stream and get behind those things. The small one's not an issue. There is still one larger antenna up there that may be an issue. It hasn't come down yet, and I'll be honest with you, I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. I don't know if somebody here knows, but it's a large antenna. It's going to be a challenge from a standpoint of containment, not actually the paint part or blasting paint, but getting the containment over the top of the tank and secure. That antenna, we still got to probably address and see how we're going to handle that one. I think it's the cities. Matter of fact, yeah, it is the cities. We didn't know if it's emergency services. We were told at one time it's one that's not being used anymore, or not, it's a secondary unit, and they just hadn't come out and taken it down yet.
Lanny, you're in charge of that. Would you find out in the city who's holding us up and get them out there and get it down? Okay.
I believe it's either the police or the fire department. Yes,
I believe
we'll check into it.
Did we not have a interim plan for that?
Quest in to get that done a couple of occasions, and it's just timing or whatever, it just hasn't happened.
The antennas were supposed to come down, but the previous contractor told me that due to finances that they weren't going to take them down, they were going to work around them. Now, I know you took over, but that's where it was on that. They were supposed to come down, but they said that the people that they had contracted to do it changed the price on them, and they decided not to do it. That's what I was told.
To that, we had a budget for that antennas to come down. And somebody, I don't remember the name, or whoever came out for the city or city, whoever, there's another company came out, put a bid together to take that antenna down like $30,000. I said, it's just not going to happen. We didn't bid that to be $30,000, and didn't ever expect it to be $30,000. So we were going to try to work around that one antenna. But if it's not advantageous, it's not something you guys are utilizing, it would be nice to get it out of the way so we don't have to try to work around. Yeah.
So, Chief, how critical is that antenna to be up and running as far as operations? Do we know what type of coverage it gives, or can we operate off the new one behind the Civic Center there? So is it possible that we take some time and get a couple folks together and we go out there and we do a site walk and we figure out if this is actually an active antenna? Because if it's not, this is the time to go ahead and take it down for good.
Yeah, so this is the first I've heard of this, and I know I thought all the antennas were taken down months ago, so this is the first I've heard of this.
Yeah, I think, Lanny, if you just take charge of it and find out where we are and get it off.
Yes, sir, I can do that. we'll do some investigation, see if we can work it out.
But just so you know, there's more than one. He's talking about a big one, but there's like 3 or 4 of these UHF smaller ones that are up there. And again, I don't know if they're active antennas or if they're just old abandoned antennas that we can go ahead and clean up and get off the tower.
Yeah, I would love to try to work around, but if they're not needed, if they could be removed, it sure make our job a lot easier.
If they don't need to be used, we need to go ahead and get them off.
One way we can verify is take them down, and if you don't get calls,
That's one of the best ways to identify it, yes.
Okay, Lanny, you got that assignment, right? All right, thank you.
You got tagged on that one.
I know one of the antennas down there is our county fire repeater. I know the school district has got some down there, and the PD had it on their old VHF system. It was down there, so, but you know, some of those I think are not used anymore. Yeah, and now like the county fire repeater is just a backup. It could be down for a while. We'd be all right.
But we should be able, at the bottom of the tower in the building or the cabinet, we should be able to see if there is an active radio turned on tied to that specific antenna and know if it's actually being used in service or not.
maybe you could come down and help us tomorrow.
I'll be glad to do that.
Sir, we certainly thank you for that report, and it makes me feel comfortable knowing that you're out there making sure that it's getting done.
Let me just say, it's really nice that you came and very professional. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and close item 9 on the agenda and move on to item 10. Item 10 is to consider approval of pay request number 8 for the School Street Elevated Storage Tank Rehabilitation.
Yes, Your Counsel. This is the pay estimate for the progress on the School Street Elevated Storage Tank that was just discussed. It's mainly rafters and some blasting and some materials that's stored, materials of hand that's stored. Are there any questions?
Do you feel comfortable with everything being done correctly? And
I do feel comfortable with being done correctly.
$54,568.86 86 is what you showed, Lynn? Okay.
So, Council, once you had a chance to review the invoice for this request, the floor will be open for a motion.
I'll make approve this pay request for the School Street Storage Tank Rehabilitation been presented tonight.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Tim Dale, second by Mr. Henry Chappelle. Madam Secretary, please record a vote.
All right.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll now close that item and move on to our next item on the agenda. Approval of Ordinance 2021-13, amending sections 117.08, 117.09, 117.10 of the Code of Ordinance regarding records. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. I'll give a very quick background on this. So we had a tow company that wanted to join the record list mid-year during this year, and several of the companies that were on our current record rotation list expressed concerns. So Councilmember Adams, Mr. Thatcher, and I met with those tow companies and kind of came to this conclusion together with them. We wanted something that would work for their businesses. So instead of allowing a company, so at the end of the fall, by December 31st, they would have to submit applications for the following year to be part of our record rotation list, which is when the department needs a tow truck for an accident scene or whatever it may be. We call a record service, and they come in order off a list so that everybody gets an equal opportunity to have business from the city. So when the company came in mid-year, it would disrupt that schedule and require us to revamp that schedule. And what we found is that could happen multiple times during the year if it were allowed for under current ordinance. So these three ordinances make very minor changes to correct that issue. In 11708, it just adds, me or my representative can, they have to apply, make that application each year. 11709 just adds language that it's valid until December 31st of the same year for which it was requested. So if somebody came in October and submitted to join the record rotation list, they could no longer do that. It would only be good until the end of the year. It's not good for a calendar year. It wasn't too specific. And then in 117, Section 10, we added Section E. And what we did is, it used to be by December 31st, and the record companies nor us like that because end of the year they're kind of closing up their books. The holidays are around, and they preferred we move that forward. So what we're doing is making it so their application has to come in by November 1st, and then we have November to do record inspections, and then submit or put out that record rotation list for the following year, and they'll actually have some advance notice for the following year.
Chief, do you know what the minimum insurance coverage is for these records?
No, I don't know what the actual dollar amount of insurance. I've read the state statute, and it just mandates that they carry insurance, but I can't remember the dollar amount.
I would get big. How many records do we have on rotation?
I think we had 5, and with the addition, we added a 6th.
That's pretty much been standard years. You look back.
Yeah, the company that came in was actually one that was previously on the rotation list. It had sold to new ownership, and then after a few months, they came to come back onto the rotation list, and that's kind of what started this whole thing.
Is that a 7-day rotation?
The answer is yes, but there's also a backup. And you also have, well, not a backup. You have a normal record rotation list, but then you also have large or heavy records. And some companies don't all offer a heavy rotation. And so the tow companies actually were looking at doing something so that they can have some weeks off where they're not always on call, but also kind of put those together. And so moving forward, we're looking at, actually one of the companies had said, hey, I'll put the list together if you'll approve it, and everybody will have a chance to look at it. So next year we're looking at doing something like that where we can kind of more pave the way, or not pave the way, but line those two up so the heavy rotation list and the normal rotation list kind of coincides with, so that they get weeks off where they can actually not be on call 24 hours a day.
I've visited with a few of the record companies myself. Of course, I know about all of them, but I think they're awful good about working with each other and around, if for whatever reason one needs to be off, another one will pick up and take over, and you know they all work together very well. We're very fortunate.
Yeah, no, I was impressed with our meeting. They were all very amicable with each other and wanting it to work. And Mr. Thatcher, Councilmember Adams, and I just wanted to be friendly with local business and the people on that list because they do a service for us as well and the community.
I have a question. So what are listed as these changes?
Say that again.
Why are we making these changes? What are listed the need for these changes?
So when the record came in mid-year, what it did is it kind of disrupted our schedule, and we had to redo a schedule. And it was actually the second time. We had a list originally. The company sold. They went off the list. Then they came in, and we had to redo the rotation list, which disrupts the business's scheduling for their employees as well, for their business, because they're now running a 24-hour on-call service during the weeks when they're on the list. So that is what precipitated it, so that we can prevent that, where once the list is established, it's established. And then the other change we did was let's make them apply by November 1st instead of December 31st. So we can do all the inspections in November and have them done by December, not disrupting family events and holiday events for a lot of these businesses and our employees at the PD as well.
Chief, is there a limit to how many services or companies we're going to allow to participate? Because eventually the pie gets cut up so small.
There's not a limit. What I would say is if we get more and more businesses, it's probably going to be because the city is growing, and so the need will be there. I think the demand will kind of lead that charge in how many companies we have. You know, we get more companies, it's because of growth. And so, no, we haven't looked at limiting the number of companies.
And there's, I think there may be a couple, at least one or two, that don't participate in it for whatever reason. And, you know, at that time, when you have an accident, you know, it's your prerogative on who you want to call also. You know, that's just, you guys call one in if they don't have a preference, but if you have a preference, then you can call whoever you want at that time.
Yeah, if it's an accident, our officers will say, do you have a record company you want us to call? Or if they have AAA, they can call them themselves. We only do this for evidentiary impounds, and then if they don't have somebody and it's an abandoned car or a disabled car or an accident, then we go to this list.
Is the record application form available online for them to go and fill out, submit via online, or where do they get the form?
So we send them the application and they fill it out. Each truck they have has to be inspected, so they have to fill out a portion for each truck as well, and they bring it over and we inspect them.
Is there a fee for that?
That is a good question. I think there was, let me just look at yeah, sorry, I didn't give you the whole list, but on my list I have a couple other items on here. Actually, I didn't print that portion of the ordinance. I'm not sure if there's a fee or not. I don't think there is, but I can't say that with certainty.
All right, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, floor will be open for a motion on this item.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-13, amending sections 117.08, 117.09, and 117.10 of the Code of Ordinance regarding record.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Henry Chappelle, second by Mr. Tim Dale. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll now close item 11 on the agenda. Our next agenda item 12 will be to consider severance agreement with city engineer.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, as you know, Mr. Zagers has moved on, and you and I have discussed this. The points of the agreement. The agreement's been drawn up and is, as we discussed it, we recommend approval.
Council, do we have any questions or anything to discuss on this item? If not, the floor is open for a motion.
Question for Ed. Paragraph 16. Just curious, since he has a 21-day quiet period, so to speak, will the money be held until that 21 days is passed, until he decides? Can you explain that?
Yes, by state law, in the agreement, he has 21 days to consider it, and that ran out, I believe last week, and then he signed it on Wednesday, and then he's got 7 more days after that to decide not to do, and that run out today. So it's got to be approved yet. It's all time, correct?
All the time has been fulfilled.
Did he have any vacation pay or time off, sick leave, any of that coming with that?
Yes, the severance, the terms of the severance was 3 months salary. He gets his vacation, no sick leave. He gets his vacation. He gets health insurance for those 3 months, and that's it. And there'll be a lump sum payment this week.
Okay, Council, if there's no further questions, the floor is open for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve agreement with the city engineer as presented tonight.
I'll second that.
The motion made by Mr. Tim Dale, second by Mr. Henry Chappell. Madam Secretary, please record a vote.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion is unanimous. We'll now close that item on the agenda. Item 13 on our agenda tonight is public comments. If we have anyone that would like to come up tonight, please state your name and be welcome to the podium.
I'd like to recognize Mr. Rex Allen, and he has some of his students with us tonight from NTCC. If you would, Rex, you can stand, and your students, we appreciate y'all being here. He is the teacher for the Texas government class out there. He's done this previously in the past, and I think it's very good. We appreciate y'all being here tonight. You get to see firsthand how your local government, which I think is the most touchable governments of all, how it takes place. And so we hope it was a little bit of enlightening to you tonight, and we appreciate you being here. We appreciate Mr. Allen having him here, and we welcome you back at any time with any of your classes.
Mr. Allen, I'd like to say thank you for being a great professor. He actually taught me out at the college, and I really appreciate all the knowledge you gave us. Madam Secretary, we have anything on the line or anything? Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and close item 13, public comments, and we'll move on to item 14 on the agenda, which is the city manager's report.
Mayor and council, I just have one thing, and that is that we're ready to meet. We're ready to start pulling the budget together for approval. We need to meet with you all in a workshop to go over the budget. We were wondering if we could pick a date, maybe next week sometime, Tuesday evening. If you want to do it in the evening, if you want to do it in the morning, if you want to do it on a Saturday or whatever, but we could do it next Tuesday. If you want to do it like tonight, but we have to wait till after the P&Z meeting. What time does that start? So, and you're usually done by 6:35 or 6:30, quarter to 5, 6, 7. If we did it here next week, we'd have to do it at 7, or we could even go down to the Civic Center and do our workshop there next week at 6 or 5:30 or whatever.
Ed, how long do you anticipate this workshop taking?
Based on last year, probably around 2 to 2.5 hours.
So that really equates to 4 hours, Sherry, just for for our math.
I figure an hour for each council person would be about right.
You're finally getting it.
Okay, we'll get together on that, Mr. Thatcher.
What time? 6:30 or 6? Can you meet at 6? 6 next Tuesday.
Okay,
Yeah, I think 6 would be a good time. Yeah.
6 p.m. Okay, with that being said, we'll go ahead and close item 14, city manager's report. Item 15 on our agenda is executive session. Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, the city council will recess into executive session at this time. This is a closed meeting to discuss the following: personnel matters, discuss the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, i.e. city manager. At this time, we are headed to executive session. Time is now 9:32 p.m. The council is reconvened into regular session. In accordance with the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, the City Council have reconvened in the regular session to consider action, if any, on matters discussed in the executive session. There is no action taken. At this time, the council is adjourned.